Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Very interesting slides you had. But now we will try to share our slides. I hope you can see it. Lifecycle cost management, very important, and I have the feeling it's getting more and more important during the last 2 years. The requests from the market, from the customer, were more and more frequent. And so we started, of course, to get a bit more in-deep knowledge about lifecycle costs, and this is something we would like to share with you. Would like to share the different views on lifecycle costs, so what we understand, the definition of lifecycle costs, then why it is important to know about the lifecycle costs and how we calculate them, for instance, for our RITSCHEL. And of course, we would like to show you why and how Liebherr products can influence the lifecycle cost positively for your business. But before we start with the lifecycle cost, I would like to hand over to Andreas to introduce the MCC tech itself.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. With the lifecycle cost, or why we have chosen this topic, why it's so important, would be because we believe that the ports are getting more and more into a competitive mode within a port with other competitors, and lifecycle costs are getting more and more of interest just to be on the competitive side in regards to rates for container business or for bulk handling. And we of course want to support this, and how we do it. What you see right here is one of the sections that Liebherr offers. Liebherr is quite a very large company with more than 44,000 employees. And we are working in one division. This is called the maritime division of the Liebherr factory. Maybe you know Liebherr already from refrigeration, earth moving, mining. There are plenty of fields where we are active. And the maritime world consists out of 4 companies that we have. We start here in Rostock. This is where we are streaming right now live, where we're producing the mobile harbor cranes, offshore cranes, ship cranes, basically all the equipment that brings joy and happiness to every port in the world. Then we have one factory in Sunderland. This is where we produce the reach stacker and smaller ship cranes, smaller LHMs also. LHM, this is the mobile harbor crane, the Liebherr mobile harbor crane. In Killarney, we built the ship-to-shore cranes, the rubber-tied gantries, rail-mounted gantries. So basically, these are the 3 hubs where we produce all the maritime equipment that is used every day within worldwide ports to bring the cargo from the shore to the sea, from the shore to the vessel, or the other way around. And also we have our company in Lansing. This is where we produce earth-moving equipment, and this all combines us to the MCC tech, which is one division of the Liebherr company.
All right.
Just as a small introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Andreas. Very good. Now I would like to introduce the 2 different perspectives we have on the lifecycle cost, because it's sometimes a bit confusing when we talk about this. Some customers and also some experts talking about TCO, and I think there is a difference between TCO and lifecycle cost. And first, I would like to explain what and why. The first perspective is the manufacturer perspective of lifecycle costs. This is my duty as a product manager to calculate and foresee the lifecycle of the product and do the rating. Is this new product worth to develop or not? So we calculate the cost and the timing for R&D, the manufacturing phase, the selling phase, and also the phase out. And the knowledge from these investigations we can take over to the more important customer perspective, because when the customer perspective on lifecycle cost is not competitive, then we cannot sell any product. So we have to ensure that our product is worth to buy. And the customer perspective starts with the acquisition phase. Means there is a selling price, we have an installation of the crane, training, and maybe you have to adjust your premises, the operation of area to meet the ground pressure requirements, for instance, and then it comes the operational phase, where you have to spend some money for service, for insurance, for diesel or energy costs. And at the end of the lifetime of the port equipment of a crane or a reach decker is the disposal phase, which can influence the lifecycle cost positively or negatively. Positively when you resell your product, and negatively if you just have to scrap your product. And there is also a difference between TCO and lifecycle cost, because TCO also includes the so-called pre-acquisition phase. So the cost or the the time you have to spend to for the tender process, for instance, or for the reacquisition of a product at the end of its life cycle. And as I said, the CapEx, the acquisition phase, contains mainly the machine price. It's the main point, the installation, handover, training, and then there comes the operational phase, and this is something very intransparent. There are a lot of factors which can influence this curve you see here in the middle. How you service your product, how the product is used, everything can influence the lifetime and the operational phase of a crane, and also the design of a crane is very important. For instance, our reach decker has a service interval twice as long compared to the market average. So this is something which is really not on the agenda during the tender process, but at the end it will help to lower the service cost, and there is also the cost in the operational phase at all.
I can maybe just say a few things here about the CapEx. This is pretty clear here: machine price, installation, handover, the shipment costs for the crane, everything. And the OPEX, this is something which is the totally different perspective from the manufacturer view and the operator view. We can just see, okay, what would be the prices for the parts of our cranes or our reach decker? What would be the consumption? Is something we can maybe see. You would say directly with the diesel liter price. But what we cannot see is things like how much is the salary of a crane driver? How much do you need for insurance? How many union-related persons you need to have surrounded within the crane? This is something we cannot influence. And these are the two different perspectives that you have to talk about, I think. So one from the manufacturer perspective, parts and state-of-the-art equipment, and one of the operator perspective, which can we as a manufacturer not influence.
Right. And when I talk about transparency, I think this is the common picture for lifecycle costs, the iceberg principle, because the product price, this is something visible and something comparable at all. But the many factors influencing the operational phase are mostly not transparent to customers, like warranty or service costs, energy costs. Okay, most of customers asking for diesel consumption, and this is totally right, because it has a big influence on the operational cost. But also costs for consumables, spare parts, maintenance, and of course insurance. And I think the design of our cranes is made to save a lot of money under the surface. So our iceberg under the surface is smaller compared to maybe others. But mostly the decisions look like that. It's CapEx driven, huh? And maybe sometimes the focus should be more set in the OPEX, because our experience is that with the OPEX you can save a lot of money. We will go later into details for that, for some examples. I already mentioned the service intervals for our reach decker, for instance, twice as long compared to competitor devices, and there is a lot of potential to save in the OPEX. Yeah.
At one point, as an operator view, this is how we see it. You need to draw a line at a type, or put a timestamp on it. So, of course, the CapEx phase, this is something which have impact for 2 years or 3 years. Then we still have the CapEx. If you look after 5 years or 10 years, then the combination out of CapEx and OPEX shows the real differences between the equipment, of course, and the management within the operating phase itself.
Right. And a positive or a good side effect, if you know the cost for the operational phase or your whole life cycle cost, it is, I think, more easier to calculate your business model and also maybe your your rates for transferring goods from ship to shore, from shore to ship, and be more competitive and have a clear view on your costs.
Right. In the end, if you know what you need to pay for bringing one container from the ship to the yard or the other way around, you can make competitive offers towards all your competitors and attract new shipping lines to your port. So basically, these are the major numbers that need to be known within a port.
And when we're talking about lifecycle cost calculation, I saw a lot of calculation models from consultants, from OEMs, from customers. So everyone is doing his own thing, and the problem is it's not comparable. But there are standards available in the market, and we choose a Vdma standard for our products in order to have a first approach on lifecycle cost calculation. And I think this is a very good, a very transparent model. And we did this for the RITSCHEL together with 4 reference customers, and this is here the average result you see. And yeah, due to lack of time, we just fill in this model the main influencing factors of the operational phase. Maintenance, which is calculated very clearly and very transparent. You take the maintenance list and rate every item of the maintenance list according to what's the duration of the maintenance itself, what kind of hardware you need, the cost for the hardware, and you sum up every item, and then you have the maintenance and repair, so the planned maintenance cost. And then of course there is unplanned repair if something gets broken, maybe by an accident. This sometimes happens in the port. So there we fill in the experience from our customers. And I highlighted here also the tires as rare parts, because I was not aware that tires have such a big influence on the operational cost of a RITSCHEL. And for us, it was also a positive side effect to see this clearly, because then we can go to our R&D department and say, okay, we have to do something, we have to adjust this screw. For instance, some months ago, we had a press release for our new tire saving system, which was born out of that analysis. So we have now the possibility to save tire life on our RITSCHELs in a very simple way. But that's another story. And of course, diesel, a very influencing factor, where the RITSCHEL is also very competitive due to the hydrostatic drive. And I think this is one reason why our capex are a bit higher due to the hydrostatic drive, but there's a lot of potential to save costs then in the operational phase. And that's why we have to change also the focus at the end. Andreas, any additions?
This is just what we want to offer here. If you can open maybe the next slide, right, just to show what we are talking about. So this is a standardized life cycle cost analysis by the Vdma. It's a German standard here, and this is why it is in German. But what we offer is we can compare different equipment, in particular by diesel consumption, maintenance, effort, parts prices, and put it into a combination together, and then you can see, okay, how long do I want to use this equipment? It's a difference, and this is what I see. The CAPEX is very interesting if you say, okay, I need this equipment for 2 years, and then I know I lose, or I get rid of the contract I have signed with the shipping line, and I don't need the equipment, I would sell it anyhow. But if I'm aiming to get an equipment which I use 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even longer, then these calculation costs will show where am I after these certain timestamps that I have just put on. And we are happy to support you with all this. We can compare different kind of equipment with these standards. You can do it by yourself as well, or even the engineering companies, same here. So, but we want to achieve is that we are all looking into the same possible measurement tool to have a comparable outcome. And I can only repeat, we can support you with this. And maybe you want to say a few more words to what's everything is said.
Yeah, almost. So as Andreas said, you can come to me and contact me in case you want your RITSCHEL or you want to have a calculation for your RITSCHEL. We can do it together. And at the end of the year, it is also planned to have the same tool available for our Liebherr mobile harbor crane. I have to say, Liebherr mobile harbor crane is much more complex, so this is why it takes a bit more time to set up this calculation model.
Yeah. And one major thing that you figure out with such model is the main drivers. So you see maybe 20 positions where you have different price tags on it. You don't need to try to screw on every small valve that you can influence, but there are a lot of names outside. I remember during my study, the ABC method and the 10 or 110, 100 method, all this stuff. So take the three biggest ones and try to make the difference there. And this is very obvious if you compare it here, what the three major components would be, or impact positions would be. And if you just concentrate on this, you can save just plenty of money and time by just taking care of this. And this is what is really by such.
Yeah, when we go back, it seems to be we should have a reach decker without driver and without tires.
Yeah, then it's perfect. Yeah, but in the end, you will not earn a lot of money with it. I think. Yeah. Okay, so this is of course. I mean, saving costs is always the necessary thing to increase the gap between cost and income towards a positive result for your company. This is why we're doing all this. Not because we are happy because we are so cheap in our operational costs, but because you can gain more money with it. This is what it's all about.
And another very important fact, in the beginning I talked about it is the lifetime of the steel work for a crane, and I think Andreas has a very good explanation why this is very important to have a look on it at least during the tender process.
Yeah. What we see, of course, we can put all the costs into consideration of oil, diesel, drivers, insurance. All this stuff is, of course, important. But on the end, the lifetime of the equipment is one of the major factors. So if you use it for 15 years or 10 years or 20 years, the price relation to the acquisition phase gets smaller and smaller. And one major difference, or I don't want to say mistake, but maybe a wrong view on equipment is that we think hours, like working hours, is a major method to measure the lifetime of a crane. Working hours or years. So my crane is 20 years old, or my crane has 40,000 working hours. But this is not how you earn money, and this is not how you look at the real equipment. Basically, if we are optimizing equipment, we are talking about cycles. So the more cycles an equipment can do, the more money is in the end pocket of the operator. So if I have a crane which worked a full shift of 40 hours, but only makes 15 moves per shift compared to a crane which makes 35 moves per shift, it has the same running hours, but the cycles is this what makes the music, how we say it here. And so it's not only to look at the operation cost, but also look at the lifetime of the equipment by cycles. And this is what we have here. This is the lifetime classification called FEM 1001. And there's an A rating. We would like to consult here in a very, or in any possible way. If we talk about lifetime costs, just to finish this off, look at the lifetime of your crane or of the equipment that you're buying. This will have the major impact, and basically one of the biggest portions of all the costs that you have is how long will your crane stay and how much money can you make out of the time you have it.
Right, and another point which is getting more and more important is the diesel or fuel consumption. Yeah, and I think in order to match the climate targets for the future, diesel fuel and exhaust emissions getting more and more expensive in the future, and would also show you the possibilities of the alternative drives we have, or we can offer to you. Andreas, maybe you can also introduce the pure electric driven mobile crane.
Of course. Yeah. Besides the fact, this is just where we are at the market standard right now, the diesel motor is still the main driver in the ports. It is still the main. Hydraulic machines are still the most favorable machines in the ports, but we see, of course, also in which direction it goes. And what we see is zero emissions, usually driven by electric drives, or maybe even go further, like we see here. So everything started with the diesel, then the electric drive came to it, then you could shift it. It's all a bit of a question if you have the electric available on your yard or not. So Liebherr trains can be driven fully electric, means emission-free already since 10 years and longer. So there's no problem. The latest development that we even made, which is what we show here, is the pure electric drive. Means not just that the main aggregate is driven by a electromotor, but also that we excluded all the hydraulics in order to get the decarbonization done in the ports. Means no hydraulic or no hydraulic change at all, which basically makes it a totally 100% emission-free crane. So this is what we understood already, and where we believe also where the future will go. So as said, what we have, all cranes that you can have here can be driven by the diesel engine still, can be driven with diesel engine or the electric drive or only electric drive. This decision is totally up to you. So Liebherr is in fully electric mode already, prepared for the future, prepared to bring the OPEX further down and support you in your business. And I would say this is it. I hope it was interesting, and thank you very much for your attention. And if you have anything you want to discuss, write it into the comment section and we were happy to answer it.
Yes, of course, and thank you from my side. I hope we could a bit bring our view of lifecycle costs or present our view on lifecycle costs. And as Andreas said, if you have any questions, please send us a message and we will, of course, answer it. Thank you very much.